This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Two here, Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. I know time flies when you're having fun, JVT. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Wherever you're watching or listening, we're all over the place. YouTube TV, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM channel 158, VSiN Watch app if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber. We got plenty to get to this hour. Coming up in about 30 minutes, we will have the one and only Marshall Harris join us, a big voice and name in Chicago sports media, help us break down one of two games for tonight's Monday Night Football doubleheader. We've got action in both the Bears and Commanders, as well as Bills Falcons. We'll discuss a handful of potential prop betting opportunities in a minute. Also in 15 minutes, do you approve this move? Looking at some college football line movement from the Sunday openers to now, a couple that have moved 2-3 points in some cases. So we've got a few interesting ones. And then, of course, best bets coming up at the end of the hour. But let's start by jumping into these football games that we have coming up tonight in prime time. Buffalo was as big as a 5.5-point favorite, still 4.5 at DraftKings right now. There's a 4 at BetMGM, but 3.5 is kind of the prevailing number across the board, with the Atlanta Falcons getting a little bit of play here, but still, of course, over that key number of 3. And our total here, 49.5. High totals for both of these games sitting at 49.5.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would express a little bit of surprise at the support for Atlanta. Not like shocked, but it's not the best injury report for Atlanta either. You've got Clark Phillips that's already out, and then Billy Bowman and who else in the secondary? Brooks, that might be unavailable for them. So if you're down 3 corners going into this game, it could be a pretty big problem for Atlanta. So some surprise that the market's moving in that direction, but I guess the rebuttal would be, well, John, yesterday the Seahawks were down 3 starters on defense, and that didn't really make a difference for them. So I think that might be a little bit more here, considering that it's Josh Allen on the other side. I'm going to be really interested in what James Cook has in store for Atlanta. You know, going back to what we talked about in the first hour, every metric points to this Hawks. See, I got basketball in the brain. Coming up soon. Everything points to this.
We were talking about the American Conference in the commercial break, and I Googled Memphis schedule, and it's all Grizzlies.
AP Top 25, or AP Top 25 for college hoops came out. They're going to go that direction too.
Yeah,
that came out today. I'm totally going to be on time with my Mountain West preview. Adam Burke, don't get mad at me for that one. But either way, looking at this from the Falcons' standpoint, that to me is it. And looking at maybe some Cook props, I wasn't maybe so sure that you could, I think, look toward over the rushing total for Cook if you wanted to go like a basic prop in that regard. Maybe even a rushing prop in terms of longest rush for him today as well. Going in the direction of just kind of playing against what has been a very poor front seven against the run. 15.5 was the number for longest rush for James Cook, over -120. What do you think of that?
I don't hate it. I was actually looking more toward his attempts at 15.5.
Sure.
Because unlike Bijan Robinson, who's been getting a ton of play in the receiving game, we don't see that as much from James Cook. When he gets his touches, they are going to be on the ground. And he's had 15+ in every game except for the season opener against Baltimore. So if we think that he's going to get volume, I almost wonder if I would prefer to do that versus the yards. Longest rush I do like, though.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's the thing. Let's reiterate what we're looking at here. This is a team that is 17th defensively in second-level yards per carry allowed, 17th as well in open field carry, or yards per carry allowed. Again, the success rate numbers. This on paper looks like it should be a good James Cook day.
Yeah.
The question is just how do you want to attack it? And it should be, to your point about going to attempts, it should be a very big part of the game plan for Buffalo here today as well.
if he does go over, he goes way over usually too. So maybe if you did already have a lean toward the over 70.5 or 71.5, whatever the number is right now, look at some alts as well. Could be an option as well.
Ladder that sucker?
Ladder it up because, like I said, when he goes under, he goes way under. When he goes over, he goes way over. Against New Orleans, 117 yards. Miami, 108. The New York Jets, 132. So if you think he's going to get after it, might as well.
I'm trying to find, because they have markets for everything, the leading rusher is also something maybe worth looking at, too, for the game. Trying to find guys, some numbers on maybe even Josh Allen to be the leading rusher, have the most rush yards for the contest. Might be something worth looking at as well.
Yeah, I've got the DraftKings rushing menu up, and I don't see
James Cook plus 110, Josh Allen 6-1, Tyler Algier 8-1. Those are the guys that are listed right now. Most rushing yards for the game.
I didn't dive into a ton of the Josh Allen rushing props, but I did bet his over 1.5 passing touchdowns at minus 125. I'm surprised that he keeps getting priced as low as he is, considering how often he goes over this. He's hit in 4 of his last 5 games, yet we're still sitting at this minus 125. You're in an indoor venue, increased passing numbers, increased passing value, I imagine, and he tends to hit his guys in the red zone. And granted, you do run the risk of him running it in and just toting the rock on his own, but passing touchdowns is something he's done more often than not.
I think it makes sense given the environment like you talked about. Maybe the aspect at play here is, again, prior to the ground game being such a big emphasis on what they're looking at. But either way, I mean, you seem to have an angle here. If he's consistently going over this at such a cheap price, it would seem that you have something, at the very least. Have you been betting this?
I bet it, yeah.
See? I'll be cheering for it.
It's been working out so well so far, so we'll keep it rolling. But yeah, I'm staying away from passing yards after my Matthew Stafford experience yesterday.
So my other angle here was going to be Bijan Robinson receptions. Okay. So if you go back to the Thursday night game.
I might tell you on that.
Right, so you go back to Thursday night against the Dolphins. Devon Achane almost went over his reception prop at halftime. They had a very high volume, and he's a big part of what the Dolphins do, so that's part of it. The Saints also had some success, or at least a high rate of targets to their 2 running backs coming out of the backfield as well. And my whole thought process was, hey, look, these teams that like to use their running backs out of the backfield, that might be something worth looking at here for a guy like Bijan Robinson. You have receiving yards, 32.5. You could do that direction as well. Again, Milano's not playing, so I think that really does help with the ability to gouge his defense with your back coming out of the backfield. We know that Robinson's just electric anyway, so the few times he's going to touch it in regards to the passing game, it might be there. It also just might be a higher rate of throws in his direction, just given that Milano's out, and then I think you can go after this Bills linebacker core without him.
Most receiving yards, if you wanted to fire on Bijan Robinson, who has hit the century mark a couple games this year receiving. 11-1 is that price for inquiring minds. The receptions number is at 4.5. You're getting plus money. I see plus 115 available right now. I obviously wish that was 3.5, but I mean the volume should be there. Did you bet the 4.5 or what number did you get?
That's what I have right here. We're talking through it like we're discussing with some of these props. I mean, most of what I've got like centered around this. For the other Monday night game, I didn't really have much outside of, I know that our last circa millions play is on Washington. We need it because it was a very sad Sunday for the most part for our entry after being up there for the quarterly, now no longer. But I didn't really have much read outside of potentially Washington having another strong ground game and maybe looking at some rushing props for the Commanders, but didn't really feel strongly about the other side. Okay, let me pull up the betting splits for that game. Washington minus 5.5 at home. You're seeing on DraftKings at least 54% of the bets are laying the number with the Commanders, but 58% of the handle on Chicago. Here at Circa, where we're broadcasting from, 70% of the bets and 82% of the handle on Washington. So that at least gives you the indication that at a place like Circa, the bigger bets and more sharp money is coming in on the Washington Commanders. Feeling comfortable with that number against Chicago. Total, as we mentioned, 49.5, the same here. I didn't dig into the props as much on this game. Were there any that kind of stood out to you from a game? I know you haven't bet any, but any that stood out to you? Well, I just think, so Washington clearly, I always like this dynamic where you have a team, the market didn't bet against them last week, but there's some trepidation as to whether or not Daniels is going to come out and be fully healthy. Looked pretty good. Obviously, we know what happened. And we saw that this offense was just hit the ground running, made the Chargers look like absolute fools with the way that this ground game was working and just overall what they were working off of it. Chicago comes in, success rate 29th in the NFL. So if you're Washington, you should be able to get some yards here. If you look at defensive success rate against the run, the Bears 27th in the National Football League. So again, with a well-schemed rushing attack, I know the guy that everybody was talking about at the beginning of the year but didn't get off to the strongest start because of the backfield dynamic now has a stranglehold on it, and Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt, that maybe having a strong game for him was in the cards, considering how bad this has looked for the Bears in terms of some of the metrics around their own run defense as well.
He is minus 160 for an anytime touchdown today. The rush attempts number for him at 15.5, the yardage 69.5. I think that I don't know how many of you guys like to do same game parlay type things, but I wouldn't hate the Bill Crosby-Merritt anytime touchdown as like a core leg to whatever you're trying to do. What's
his longest rush? Because that's the other part. This is one where I think you can really feel somewhat strongly about it. The Bears are dead last in both second-level yards per carry allowed and open field yards per carry allowed.
It's juiced to the over at minus 125, but 15.5 is the number.
So we're talking about, on paper, a very well-schemed rushing attack against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL that's also literally the worst at giving up explosive runs. That, to me, would seem that Crosby-Merritt is going to be in contention to have to go over that number for longest rush.
Let me see what his longest rushes have been.
I mean, you could do, again, it's not played on paper, right, as they would say. But a lot of this would point to it's generally almost every game.
Gone over in 3 of 5 games, including the last 2.
Yeah, so he's got the explosive ability. He's got the ability to force missed tackles. But these 2 games specifically, it does seem like you have 2 bad run defenses in Atlanta and Chicago, respectively.
It's a running back day.
Yeah, going up against 2 offenses that really can put together some strong offensive performances on the ground.
And as we talk about with both of these games being such high totals, like the expectation is there's going to be scoring. And so it's just like picking out the people who you think are going to be a part of that. And it seems like James Cook and in game 1 and Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt in game 2 are a couple key guys to be targeting. And like we said, too, with Bijan Robinson, the receiving game has just been so active for him. It's hard not to look at some of those numbers. He's the CMC of the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, and as we talked about when we mentioned the Achane game a couple of weeks ago, but you don't need production. You just need the catches.
Yeah.
And then after that, whatever, get 2 yards, who cares? But you just need the volume.
And by the way, as we go through and we talk about all of these props on a daily basis, we have a tool up at vsin.com that's new this football season. The AI Opta player prop projections. You go to vsin.com/props and you can search a quarterback name, a wide receiver, all of the top props for all of those marquee players. You can see the number that they project directly beside the DraftKings lines. Highlight value, find your options, see where the AI tracking can help you. It's the same trusted brand as the soccer analytics you get over there in the UK. Again, vsin.com/props. We're going to step aside, looking at some college football line movement next on Money Moves.
Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now, imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It's football season, baby, and football meets flavor with VSiN and Omaha Steaks, the official sponsor of tailgating this football season. Built for the grill, Omaha Steaks smash burgers are pre-smashed, crafted with premium aged beef, and go from freezer to bun in just 5 minutes. And as a VSiN exclusive, you'll get 16 free smash burgers with any order of $129 at the website, plus 50% off site-wide when you head over to omahasteaks.com/VSiN. That's omahasteaks.com/VSIN. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.
Odds move up, odds move down. Let's see where the odds are moving today, and do you approve this move?
Let's get into it because it was a busy college football weekend, and with the opening lines coming out on Sunday, we've already seen a ton of movement in the market. And we're going to start with a pair of games coming up on Friday, JVT. Nebraska, your Cornhuskers, at Minnesota. Nebraska out from a 5.5-point favorite at open to 6.5. Only one loss for your guys this season by a field goal to Michigan. What do you make of the early move here?
I'm not entirely sure. Nebraska's been not the best ATS team since the beginning of the year. They've actually failed to cover their last 3. So I would say that maybe the market's been a little high on them, or maybe this is a buy low opportunity and under a touchdown against Minnesota. I'll be interested to see, obviously, what the result is going to be. But for a team that has not covered very well, always interesting to see the market kind of come in again on what has been a group that has been a little overrated by betting standards. But to your point, Dylan Raiola and the Nebraska Cornhuskers, do you also throw this out there? College is somewhat narrative-based, situational. What if your head coach is a little distracted? What if he's got an extra meeting today or tomorrow? Got to talk with the agent a couple of times.
His
a little
head
bit more.
might be elsewhere this week. I can see that.
Yeah. Maybe worth pointing out when you're laying 7.5. Maybe Matt Rule doesn't do that extra time because he's got another 20 he's got to talk to his agent for whatever reason.
See, that's one way to put it. Another way to put it could be Penn State jobs open. I got to make a statement here down the stretch. So
I mean, that's fair too.
It's another element.
Is Dylan Raiola somewhat distracted by the fact that he will be wearing white next year?
Also on Friday night, the North Carolina Tar Heels have a cross-country trip to visit Cal at Berkeley. Both teams coming off of their bye.
Why couldn't you get this game, huh?
We don't do Friday games.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what it is.
Damn.
But Cal's opened a 12.5-point favorite, and North Carolina getting a little love here in the market, saying that number is too high after Cal's loss to Duke the other day, and all the interceptions that were thrown from Jaren Kiawe-Sangapulatele. Offensive line wasn't standing up. Maybe he got a little bit dinged up as well. Has had the bye to heal, however. What do you think? Do you approve the move in North Carolina's favor?
You know me. I'm very big. Buy low, sell high. This seems kind of like a buy low opportunity for North Carolina, and also for a Cal team that, look, I mean, I think we've gotten a little, they start off the season very strong. They're 3-0 straight up. They cover 2 of those 3 games. One of them, they were a big favorite against Texas Southern, whatever. But, they have exceeded expectations. But then now, with those expectations, that's where we go back to invoke Brian Callahan one more time. When you're 3-20 against the spread, it's kind of hard to do it. You're going to meet the middle at some point. And I think this is the part where we start to sink back down toward the middle for Cal. As much as I hate to say it, I agree. Give me North Carolina here.
I hope it keeps going in this direction, because if we get under double digits, I might be in on the Golden Bears.
Like under 9.5, you might be in.
I look at what North Carolina has done, even coming off the bye. It is their cross-country travel, but they've lost by a lot to every Power 4 opponent they have played to this point.
Cal. You've had them 3 times now? 2 times? Yeah,
3. Trace the first 7 weeks of the season. West Virginia at UCF, a team that beat North Carolina handily. UCF from 9.5 down to 7, so West Virginia getting a little love. And then Oklahoma at South Carolina. The Sooners from 3.5-point favorites to 5.5 in the bounce back spot after the tough look, that is, against Texas.
Yeah, and I think, so very quietly, John Mateer, in the early going of the season when this team was undefeated, had kind of been getting away with putting the ball in danger a little bit, and then that came to rear its ugly head in the matchup against Texas. I don't know if that gets much better. I don't think that was a health thing. That was a decision-making thing. Will that really change for Oklahoma? They're very good defensively, though, and I think that's probably going to be keeping you into this thing. Also, as we've discussed, 3.5 to 4.5, not the biggest deal in the world. Still, 4 is. a key-ish number. So we'll see. I would expect that maybe you get a little bit buyback on South Carolina at 4.5, and we just kind of toggle back and forth.
You know a game I'm really interested in this week? Georgia Tech at Duke. Because while we know it is, while we know Miami has cemented itself in the top spot of the ACC, everybody's fighting for that second spot, and Georgia Tech and Duke could put themselves in that position. Tech undefeated at this point. Duke coming off a big win at Cal. They've kind of seemed to find themselves since the loss against Tulane with Darian Mensah. They have seen a flip of favorites in this game. I mean, Georgia Tech opened a 1.5-point favorite. Duke is now out to being a 3-point favorite in this spot. What do you think?
I am obviously, I mean, this is big too. If you remember 3 weeks ago or so when we talked about this, I bet Georgia Tech to make the playoffs at plus 190. This is one where you need to win.
I have them to make the ACC title
there you
game.
go. So this is big for both of us. I'm going to be curious to see if Georgia Tech defensively will be able to hold up here, especially against the run. A lot of metrics in the high 100s if you're talking about their ability or lack thereof to stand up against opposing ground games. That's going to be something worth looking at here. You know, whatever you want to say about Duke, they can run the ball relatively well. Their offense has just been very good, but a top 50 rushing attack, that to me is going to make the difference. And I can kind of understand why you would say, you know what, Duke is probably good enough to be given home field at home here against Georgia Tech.
How about this top 25 flip of favorites with LSU at Vandy? The Tigers opened a 1.5-point favorite. I'm seeing Vanderbilt minus 2.5 right now at home, hosting the Tigers, trying to bounce back from the loss to Alabama, but 5-0 prior to that loss in Tuscaloosa. What do you think?
I mean, this is where you jump off the ship, isn't it? Don't we need Vandy as a dog?
That's true. Good point. Well taken.
So this is, I think, where you just have to say, you know what? You've done very well. We appreciate it, but we got to get out of here. Vandy and these teams, it's not like they know, I would say, and understand, like, hey, we're in the dog role. This is it. But if you're a team that is generally in that role, it's a lot better for you. And in certain situations, look, 22.5-point favorite against Utah State. You couldn't get it done there. You did it against Georgia Southern, or I think it was Georgia State that they played. But every other cover, like you're talking about this team against the actual opponents of quality, they're an underdog. This is going to be a little bit of a different role against a power opponent as a short favorite.
Okay, you watched a ton of CSU the other day in their dominant win against Fresno State, despite being a dog in that one. They go from a 1.5-point dog to 1.5-point favorite now, hosting Hawaii on Saturday. What do you think? Do you approve the move?
I think all of these teams are pretty much the same. So, like, throw one in a hat, pull it out, and say, hey, this is a Mountain West team that's going to win this game, and I think you're going to be perfectly fine. I would say that if you're going to, and I'm going to venture a guess here, that we're going to ping pong back and forth between like 1.5. Market doesn't really seem to like Hawaii either. I think that's part of it too. And Colorado State, like you mentioned, has been all over the place. So I think that this is probably where you should put it. I don't think these two teams are that much farther away from each other. If you want to say Hawaii slightly better in neutral, that's what CSU minus 1.5 would tell you.
The market does seem to like a resurgent UCLA team since firing Deshaun Foster. They're out from a 1.5-point dog to Maryland to a 3-point home favorite.
Oh, I'm sorry. And we should also point out the travel, too, for Hawaii, right? Going out to Colorado State. That's a big deal, too. For this one, how about that, huh? So, for the contest and the super contest, tried to get cheeky, and I was like, you know what? Everybody's going to be fading UCLA. Let's take this 8.5. Let's try to get against. It had more selections than Michigan State this last weekend, and they still get it done.
The right side.
Yeah, it was the right side 100% of the way through. So now this is the big change. I mean, come on now. You're laying a field goal at home. It's a try, like you mentioned, it's a tough trip. But from what we've seen the last 2 weeks, you got to say it's the right move, right?
Yeah, I think so. We got to cruise through a few of these other ones. Washington at Michigan. The Huskies getting a little bit of play here on the road. Michigan down from 7 to a 5.5-point favorite. Georgia, meanwhile, from a 5.5-point favorite at open against Ole Miss out to 6.5. Ole Miss barely squeaked by this past weekend. And then the Texas A&M Aggies, who continue to creep up in the top 25. Against Arkansas on the road, a point the other direction from 8.5 down to 7.5.
Yeah, Market tried this with Arkansas against Notre Dame, right? And it didn't really work out a couple of weeks ago, but maybe this is the time to do it in the conference matchup. I'm going to be more interested in the bounce back for Michigan. We had talked about this in handicapping the USC game, which was, Bryce Underwood and the offense looking really different in true road spots than as opposed to home. Now you can kind of control things when you're back at home. So think be curious to see when the bounce back and the buyback, I should say, comes from Michigan.
We've got the immediate fade of Penn State following the James Franklin firing. Iowa out from a 1.5-point favorite now to 3.5, so over that key number of 3. Texas Tech at Arizona State. Boy, did the Sun Devils look rough without Sam Leavitt, and I don't know when the next time we're going to see him available will be, but 11.5-point favorite on the road in Tempe. And then Texas, Kentucky. This is a game actually I'll be on the sideline for. Texas, despite the big win at Oklahoma, getting faded a little bit here in the early market from a 13.5-point favorite at open to 11.5.
Yep. The Texas Tech, Arizona State battle of the backups?
Yeah, potentially. Baron Morton day-to-day with the injury, but the x-rays did come back positive, so we'll see. But, I mean, he's been knocked out of so many games so far this season. Be prepared for the Will experience.
Yeah, I mean, you know Arizona State, you had him a couple of times now. This team looks pretty listless on offense at times, especially if Leavitt's not going to be available.
They got bullied a bunch, and if I were you, I would target something Texas Tech in the first half with how slow starting Arizona State has been, even with Sam Leavitt. Last one here, USC at Notre Dame, the Irish from a 7.5-point favorite out to 8.5. Does that surprise you a little bit with how good the Trojans have looked offensively?
Kind of disagree. Yeah, 8.5. That offense is pretty good for USC. I think they'd be able to stay inside of that number.
I think so as well. It'll be exciting. Obviously, all week long, we're going to dive into some of those marquee matchups and the games that interest us most. But that one is very high. My ears perked up a little bit when I saw that spread. We're going to step aside. When we come back, continuing our Monday Night Football talk, Marshall Harris is going to help us preview all things Chicago, Washington next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
What's going on, everybody? Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Game 2 of our Monday Night Football doubleheader coming up tonight as we wrap up Week 6 in the NFL. We'll feature the Chicago Bears paying a visit to our nation's capital. Bears getting 5.5 points right now on the road against the Commanders, total 49.5. The Washington Commanders stole their last game against Chicago, if you remember. Jane Daniels walks it off with the 52-yard Hail Mary touchdown as time expires in Week 8 of last season. And the Bears are certainly hoping for a very different fate tonight.
I was on the desk with Dave Ross, somebody you might know.
Okay, listen, the G-Bank commercials are coming down, okay? So we don't need to talk about my relationship with Dave Ross on camera, where I was an actress, by the way. That said, let's preview all things Monday night with Marshall Harris, who joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Huge voice in Chicago sports radio, TV, host and anchor at 670 TheScore, as well as ABC 7 in Chicago. Also, for those who might not know, Spike Ball play-by-play legend. Marshall, how are you?
We're just throwing the word legend out there for anybody, huh? I mean, doesn't that make you a Spike Ball sideline reporter legend in the same vein?
I do say often, Marshall, I should be on the cover of Obscure Sports Quarterly because of the spike ball, cornhole, slam ball. I've done a lot of the ESPN 8, the Ocho stuff, but that was one of the funnest events I've ever worked was with you doing spike ball, buddy.
It's so much fun. People just don't know how much fun it is until they actually participate, watch in person, however you take it in. I mean, it's some of the best work in 25 years of broadcasting that I've ever done is just dealing with spike ball, calling national championships and crazy stuff like that. But you know what? That's not why you have me here. You want to talk about the Bears and the Commanders, and you say they stole the game or whatever. No, it was gifted to them. It was gifted with Tyreek Stevenson last year, trying to taunt the crowd and then coming back, realizing a play was going on just in time to tip it to Noah Brown, who's out tonight, by the way. And with Noah Brown out, and also with Scary Terry not playing, Terry McLaurin, and Deebo Samuel kind of hampered himself, you're looking at a window. I love the 5.5, by the way. I'm going to go ahead, not just because I live in Chicago, but I'm going to take the Bears in the 5.5.
So one of the things we've brought up a couple of times is this Bears run defense. A lot of metrics point to it being pretty poor, especially in giving up some explosive runs. How do you think that shakes out in terms of their ground game, Washington, against Chicago tonight?
Well, a couple of things. I think it's really interesting that I don't know if you guys know because you're in that paradise in Vegas, but there's a nor'easter that's scheduled to come through Landover, Maryland. And so I'm wondering how wet is it going to be? What are those field conditions going to be on the Bermuda grass? And if it's going to be something because of the wind of a nor'easter that away the ability to maybe pass the ball. And the good news for the Bears is they've got a couple of big players back. TJ Edwards, who's their best linebacker at stopping the run, returns tonight. And for the first time all season, they'll have Kyler Gordon, who plays the nickelback role, but has been known to get what they call, quote unquote, nosy in the running game. So this is as healthy a defense as Ben Johnson has put out there as far as his first year. Dennis Allen, who's got head coaching experience and is also a great defensive coordinator. I think their run defense will be more stout. I just don't know if it will be stout enough against a guy like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Little Bill, whatever you want to call him, because he's leading the NFL in runs per carry. He's nasty. So it's going to be a matter of how much does that weather affect really what's going on here. I like the Bears defense to be better, but I can't call it. It's just there's several factors you have to take in. Also, the Bears haven't played a game in 15 days because of the bye. And this is when Ben Johnson said he felt like he'd get a better identity of his team.
Yeah, my Vegas is showing nor'easter is not a word that is used often out here at all. Marshall Harris joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, diving into all things Chicago Bears. And let's talk about Ben Johnson a little bit, because obviously so much was made of him being hired and what that relationship and dynamic was going to be like with Caleb Williams. How through 5 games have you seen that start to grow?
Well, I think it's certainly gotten a lot better since that opening Monday night salvo that they fired off or misfired off against the Minnesota Vikings, where the Bears had a double-digit lead heading into the fourth quarter, and then they couldn't hang on because they just couldn't get first downs. Caleb Williams has really progressed over the last 2 games in what he's been able to do, first against the Dallas Cowboys and then also against – hold on one second.
I have that ring as
My
well.
notification. Hopefully that wasn't too loud coming through. So it's interesting because I think Caleb Williams has shown the growth in learning Ben Johnson's offense, and the potential is certainly there that you would think that this is going to be another step forward. Last time out against the Raiders was kind of a treadmill moment where they didn't get any worse, but they didn't get any better, but it was good enough to win the game. And I think this game takes a lot of importance for not just Caleb Williams under Ben Johnson, but let's face it, guys, it's number 1 versus number 2 when you look at the draft order last year with Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams, he says he hears the noise that the wrong guy got taken number 1 overall, so I think he has a chip on his shoulders. And Ben Johnson's just so dynamic in his ability to be creative with his parts. He's been very displeased with how the run game has looked. I think it's going to look a little bit better today. I don't know about a lot better, but a little bit better tonight.
How do you think Ben Johnson has progressed as a head coach?
Oh, I think there's been huge progress there because he's made mistakes in each of the first 2 games. The approach, I think it was more than he thought it was going to be, to go from being the guy who just calls the plays and worries about personnel to now you're responsible for the whole team. Ultimately, the defense, the special teams, it's your responsibility. Even though Dennis Allen's kind of looked at as the head coach of the defense after his time being a head coach with the New Orleans Saints, and Richard Hightower, who's the only coordinator that was held over from last year, I think Ben Johnson has realized how much tougher this job is going to be than maybe he first realized. But he's taken it in stride. And the fact that they started 0-2 and they've won their last 2 games, getting their first road win in Las Vegas. Look, I know the Raiders aren't good. I know Ashton Genty only has 1 good rushing game, and it was against the Bears. But I think even the small steps like that set up a matchup like this. You look at the standings right now, and if the Bears win tonight, they're kind of in the driver's seat. They haven't played the Packers yet. They still got a game at home against the Detroit Lions. They've gone from, this is the first year, small steps, to, hey, we can be in this playoff mix if we play it right. And this is kind of that perfect next step for them, a good team on the road.
They are a 25-1 shot in the division, but plus 450, yes, to make the playoffs, if that is something that interests some people. To stick to this game, though, real quickly, the total 49.5, and I promise I'm not just saying this because I want to use the word nor'easter again, but how much do we think that could impact the way this game is played a little bit slower, potentially, with the total being as high as it is?
See, I'm with you. The only thing is, I think there's going to be explosive plays in this game. The Bears have given up explosive plays. I think Washington, because they're so thin up front, I don't know that they're going to get the amount of pressure they want to get on Caleb Williams. And I don't know what that mix is going to be like. I will say this. You're right. If the weather is bad and they can't throw the football, running the football will shorten the game. The clock will continue to run. So maybe the under on that over-under is the way to go. But I just feel like there's going to be some big plays, whether that's pick six, whether that's a scoop and score. I just feel like this Bears defense, one thing that they have done well, and the reason that they're 2-2, even though they've been bad against the run, is they find a way to make big plays in the turnover aspect of things.
Given what you know about this team and what you're seeing in terms of their track for projection, they're 2-2, as you mentioned. Are they a playoff team?
They can be a playoff team. So it's funny. I picked them to go 7-10 at the outset of the season, but that's because I was like, well, they're definitely not getting a win when they go see Joe Burrow in Cincinnati right after they go see Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. You see what those two teams look like right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Lamar Jackson, when he comes back after the bye, won't be good, but that's the Bears' next game after this. If they win this game tonight, the road is there for them to make the playoffs. I think the bigger thing is because the Vikings shouldn't be as good as maybe what we thought they were going to be, although I think they have a better chance of being good with Carson Wentz than they do with a J.J. McCarthy who's trying to figure things out along the way. I think they can be a playoff team. I'm not going to call them a playoff team because, like I said, I picked them to go 7-10. But I look around the league, and a lot of the teams that I thought were going to be tough, I don't know. I guess it's the bottom line. I think specifically the Giants game, I was like, oh, yeah, that's an easy win. Now I'm looking at Jackson Dart doing crazy stuff. I was like, is it an easy win? But I think the Bears defense being healthy as they are right now, I think there's a good chance that the Bears win more games than I thought they were going to win.
Marshall, we've only got about 40 seconds left, but I didn't realize until I looked at your bio that you're a Mississippi State guy. They've been playing really well to start this season. Yeah, there you go. The Texas A&M loss I know is a tough one, but how many games do you think they could win? 4-2 to start the year.
I believe they have Arkansas on the schedule, and then they'll lose the rest of their games. I think they're about tapped out at 5 or 6. It's the SEC. They are on the bottom rung of a 18-team conference.
They did double their wins from a year ago, 2 weeks into the season, though, so that's got to be a plus for Bulldog fans, no?
They haven't beaten a team not named Arkansas in SEC play since 2022. Need I say more?
Close to Tennessee, though. Close. Marshall, you're awesome as always. Appreciate your time, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Still repping strong, though, which I appreciate.
I like that hoodie.
That is a nice hoodie.
Very good color, yeah.
We got to step aside here on Money Moves. When we come back, we'll rehash how our weekend played out from a best bet standpoint and give you where we're putting our money tonight. Stay with us. We're wrapping things up on Money Moves next on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are wrapping up this Monday edition of Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Also, big thank you to Josh Kendall of The Athletic, as well as Marshall Harris for stopping by the program. Remember, if you ever miss any of the program any day, you can always download Money Moves wherever you get your podcast. But great conversations with them, previewing the Monday Night Football doubleheader we have on deck. JVT and I do have a couple bets that we'll get to in a moment. But first, let's kind of rehash how the weekend went overall. Not too bad and still up for the year. Both of us.
Look at you. Way to be positive. Again, you always have to strive for perfection, and that was not this weekend.
You're 5-5.
5-5, so eat the juice for the most part. A loser in terms of the actual units, but yes, Browns plus. You know what's funny? I was watching. So as I watched yesterday, and as I watched Cam Ward on a final drive with the ability to get into the back door, and then I watched him just drop the football, I thought, and I heard in my head, ringing over and over again, the dulcet tones of one Matt Humans, who used to tell me all the time, don't ask bad teams to do good things for you. And I asked two bad teams.
Point.
I asked two bad teams to do good things for me this weekend, the Browns and the Titans, and that was really bad. So that won't happen again. Chiefs money line gets there, a couple of teasers, 2 of the 3. Loser are the Eagles, who lose the game outright on Thursday. Bryce Young, I mean, that was tough. That was a belief in the Panthers offense, but probably should have said, you know what, maybe a belief in this this rushing attack, which has been great. Nevada doesn't get there. Colorado State blows out Fresno State over the weekend, and then the Aces get it done over the Mercury. So like you said, 5-5, eat the juice, still up for the year, and I guess that is the end goal.
Yeah, that was a nice show win to close out the WNBA season. Yeah. You only had a couple bets, so you broke even in the W. I know, the Nafisa Collier thing still stings.
Unbelievable.
But let's go Aces. Unreal what they've been able to do the last few years.
A little fraudulent.
Asia Wilson was incredible. You know it.
Yes, I know it was. How about that, though? I mean, if I were to tell you, to your point about like just the overall narrative, when this team is floating around 500 right before that 18-game winning streak starts or 17, that not only would they win the finals, they were going to sweep their opponent when they got there. Just absolutely just dribble their heads off of the hardwood. That was a very impressive performance, and now 3 out of the last 4 reside in Las Vegas.
And now the Becky Hammond haters had to eat their words.
We could still argue that Nikase is maybe, the straw that stirred the drink for the Aces.
Had to say it. 7-4 weekend for me. The first weekend that I did not do well on teasers, which was pretty disappointing. My favorite bet of the week did come through with the Colts and Rams paired together in their respective teasers. Got good numbers on that, fortunately, to be able to still get there. The Lions did me dirty last night because I teased them up as a short dog against Kansas City, and they had ample opportunities to be able to cover that number, and I am still reeling about the Jared Goff no touchdown call. And I am not I'm not like a tinfoil hat person.
Conspiracy theorist?
I'm not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to any of the Chiefs stuff, but you go from 13 penalties against Jacksonville to not a 1 yesterday.
They didn't commit a penalty.
They didn't commit one.
Not a single one.
Not one. Ugh, it's sickening.
Sounds like you are a conspiracy theorist.
No, I'm not a conspiracy.
You can't say I'm not a conspiracy theorist and then dive right into the conspiracy.
I'm not a conspiracy. That's our new segment. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but no, I just in that instance, like I feel like that was just a little. I'm not saying
JFK was an inside job.
No.
I just think we should think about it for a second.
I'm not saying it from that angle, but calls were missed, and that's all it is. And it's just, I think, for any of us that are bettors, it's frustrating. Also, we didn't talk about this earlier when we talked about the Emeka Egbuka injury. Mm-hmm. The fact that Fanatics and how many books are just giving everyone
number.
Their money back. That should not be the standard.
Refunded $1.5 million in prop bets on Emeka Egbuka after he injured his hamstring during the 49ers-Bucs game. It's the largest single payout in the history of Fanatics Fair Play injury protection policy, according to Front Office Sports.
This is just reaffirming to so many people out there that are complaining on a weekly basis that they should get refunded. That's just doubling down on it. That should not be the norm. And if you bet the under and you're getting your money back for that instead of getting a win, that sucks.
It's very true.
So,
very true.
Neither here nor there.
There could have been a second shooter. We should talk about it.
You're the worst. The Matthew Stafford passing yards I knew was a bad bet as we discussed it on the show yesterday, but it was already in pocket, so that's a loser. We did get the over on the buy low spot for Panthers-Cowboys. A lot of people were leaning under because of the potential for weather, and I was not buying into that based on both of these defenses and the Panthers offense at home. So that got there. Jake Ferguson over 6.5 receptions was a tough look. We did get there, however, on the attempts for Justin Herbert, and a good week in college football. 3-1 on the plays for college football. I think team totals are now going to be my thing. Indiana and USC team totals both getting there. We took the Trojans on the money line. Our loser was I still thought Iowa State was good and Colorado was bad. And maybe those things could still be true, but Iowa State's injuries certainly derailing them to a good bit. Now, that was last weekend. Let's push it forward to what we have coming up on deck today and moving forward. And you have an MLB postseason series wager you put in.
Yeah, I'm going to buy in here on my thought that the gap between Milwaukee and L.A. is not as much as the market would say. So Mike Palm and I talked about this a couple of times, talked about it on this podcast, Bet on Chicago. He came in on Friday. We discussed it a little bit more. So he asked me, what do you think the series price will be between Milwaukee and L.A.? And my guess was about minus 180 in favor of the Dodgers. Now, as I told Mike on the podcast, too, there's a difference between what I think it will be and what I think it should be. And it's minus 200 at a couple of spots. I think we're just a little too far out for this. The Brewers are a pretty sound team. I like their pitching staff. The Dodgers still, over the course of a best of 7, I think it becomes harder to mask your bullpen over the course of a long series. So with all that being said, on a price that I think is a little too high, Give me the Brewers plus 1.5 games at minus 115. Stay inside of that. Obviously, you can win the series outright, push it to 7. You got a winner there, too. But it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. But I think the Brewers are better and have a higher probability than what the market would say. I also think, of course, by that logic, that plus 170 or better is worth playing on the Brewers to win the series outright.
Now, this moving forward would not be a best bet, but as far as tonight goes, Milwaukee plus 128 as a home dog in the opener against Blake Snell, and the Dodgers run total 7.5. We talked about the Mariners and Blue Jays earlier, but any early thoughts on game 1 tonight?
I mean, nothing crazy. I think, too, we're talking about like minus 146 getting pushed out to minus 154 like you're talking about. I think it seems a little high, just given, again, the competency that the Brewers have going with it. And as we know with Snell, Snell does have the penchant for racking up that pitch count, having some trouble finding the zone. And if that version of Snell comes out where he only gives you maybe 4-ish innings, then all of a sudden you got to get to that bullpen a little bit earlier than you want against Milwaukee. And that, to me, when you're looking at the way this thing is being priced, again, shop around, plus 135 or better, which is like some spots like South Point are hanging that up. That, to me, would be worth looking at here for Milwaukee.
Okay. And you also added to the futures portfolio in the NFL on the Kansas City Chiefs.
So we're going to talk about this on Pod to the Futures with Mitchell R. Moss coming up tomorrow's episode. But I added the Chiefs to win the AFC West to plus 150. I think this might be the time now to discuss what Kansas City is going to be in the big picture. I think the way Mitch and Paul attacked it was adding them to win the Super Bowl at 9-1. And I think this is just maybe the time to kind of buy in on a team that every metric would point to is better than what their record indicates right now, just being 3-3. They're starting to get healthy. Rice now coming back. This wide receiver core is going to start to look a little bit more explosive. And Patrick Mahomes has quietly played very good football over these last few weeks. And if that is all coming together and we're adding an explosive nature to this offense that was absent through the first few weeks, in an AFC West that, as we've talked about, multiple offensive lines injuries for the Chargers, a very below average quarterback so far for the Denver Broncos will be nice about at this point right now. And then whatever the Raiders are, I think at plus 150 for the team that was the odds on favorite to do so, I think that's worth adding on right now.
I do love to an extent, like your disdain toward.
It's not disdain.
What would you call it?
I would call it stating facts.
You do not.
Malicious facts?
You do not like boning. Malicious facts. That's got a nice ring to it a little bit.
Sorry.
But I'm with you. We mentioned it earlier as well. I already have the Chiefs to win the AFC West as a preseason bet, minus 115. I looked back through the log to see what the number was exactly that we got. So minus 115, I do not fault you at all for betting that because I agree with the entire argument. I really liked the Chargers this year, and it is super disappointing to see the injuries holding them back. I do, real quickly, I have one bet tonight in Monday Night Football. I bet Josh Allen over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and it's just a numbers play that I don't know why it's still only minus 125, and I think it's going to continue to go up, and he should get that indoors today against this team.
We did get a couple of tweets. Scola checks in and says, bike helmets, participation trophies, and refunding bets for injury. This generation is coddled.
I love that tweet.
I would disagree a little bit with some of it. I mean, helmets, for one. They're kind of important.
Like, yes, in general. But I'm saying, like, when you're just, like, riding around the neighborhood, I don't think that it's, like, it should be required by law.
Wow, look at Stormy. She's got some old school thoughts. Look at this.
And that's from somebody who's fallen off a bike. Maybe that's why I feel that way. My brain's a little damaged.
Mike checks in, says, actresses who complained that they were set up to be mean, Katherine Heigl in Knocked Up and Stormy Buonantony.
Excuse me. I'm not saying I was set up to be mean. I was acting mean for the commercial, right. Okay? And Katherine Heigl's had a nice little redemption tour over the last year or so. All right, so give her flowers.
Yeah, she was not viewed very positively, was she?
It was a negative. Seth Rogen was not nice about her either. But
really?
She has turned things around, ladies and gentlemen.
So can you.
Listen, Dave Ross forgave me. That's all that matters.
I was going to say, he asked for it.
For our producer, Justin Emery, Jonathan Von
Tobel,
I'm Stormy Buonantony. Thanks for hanging out with us. Follow the money. Mitch and Paul coming up after this.